Most people think if a house is in really rough condition, a cash buyer is probably their only option. But today, I'm going to show you a property that completely changed the way I look at that argument. The homeowner accepted a $155,000 cash offer from one of those We Buy Houses as is companies. And what happened next honestly surprised me. Welcome back to another episode of The True Cost of Fast Cash, where I compare what homeowners accepted from cash buying companies versus what eventually happened after the investor took over. Now, this series isn't about saying cash buyers are bad. There are absolutely situations where selling for cash fast makes sense. My goal is simply to show you real transactions so you can make informed decisions before accepting an offer. Now, today's property is located in Grange Park. It's about 13 miles southwest of Chicago. It's a single family frame ranch, approximately 1,400 square feet. Now, back in March, the homeowner sold the property to one of these cash companies for $155,000. Now, this one is a little different from most of the homes I featured in this series. Let me show you the listing description. Now, their listing description says rare opportunity to complete and customize this home in desirable LaGrange. Property is currently in rough framing condition and requires substantial renovation and finishing work throughout. Ideal for investors, rehabbers, builders, or buyers looking to create their own vision. New prospect buyers will need to get permits for rebuild to obtain occupancy, conveniently located near parks, schools, shopping, dining, transportation. Property being sold as is. Buyer to verify all information and intended use. So, listed on the open market, being sold as is. So, when the investor put the property back on the market in May, a couple months later, they listed it for $249,900. And the one thing that stood out to me was the investor was selling the property as is. I do see them do that, but most of the time they make some cosmetic repairs. So naturally, I wanted to see what the house actually looked like. So let's take a peek. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either. The house is completely gutted. Now, I honestly don't know whether the investor gutted the property after purchasing it or if it was already in this condition when they purchased it. The records simply just don't tell us. So, does this mean if you gut your house, it'll suddenly be worth more? I'm pretty sure that that's not the lesson here. What this tells me is something much more interesting. Even in this condition, there were buyers willing to purchase this property. No fresh paint, no new flooring, no remodeled kitchen, actually, no kitchen, no fancy staging, just an as is property. So now the question becomes, what do you think happened? Did the investor get anywhere close to their asking price? Or did they have to take a huge loss because the house needed so much work? How long was it on the market for? I'll show you the final sales price in just a minute. The one thing I hear all the time is, well, at least I wouldn't have to pay a realtor's commission. That's not true. But remember, when you sell to one of these companies, you still typically have many of the same seller closing costs. The biggest thing you're avoiding is usually the real estate commission. And in this case, I can confidently say there is no realistic commission that would have come anywhere close to the difference we're about to look at. Now remember, it was sold to this We Buy Houses for Cash company for $155,000. It was only on the market for 18 days before it went under contract. And the final sales price? So $225,000. That's $70,000 more than what the investor paid the homeowner. The seller accepted $155,000. That's a $70,000 difference. Now, I want to be fair here. I can't say with certainty that if the original homeowner had listed this property on the open market, they would have received $225,000. The buyer who ultimately purchased it may not have been available 2 months earlier, or they may have purchased something else if the timing had been different. We simply just don't know. But what this sale does tell me is that there were buyers in the marketplace who were willing to pay substantially more than the original cash offer, even for a home in this condition. So in my opinion, there's a very good chance the seller could have walked away with considerably more money by exposing the property to the open market before accepting an investor cash offer. Now, the one thing that I notice a lot that stands out in the postcards they send out, the TV ads they do, they're always pushing about you don't have to deal with a realtor, so it's no commission. And they make it sound like having your house on the market is you're going to be going through all of this horrible stuff. Typically, that's not the case. So I don't like the fact that they push that part, but when they push the part about saving on the real estate commission, I believe every one of these case studies I followed had the seller paid a commission with the difference in price if they were able to list with a realtor and sell it for around the same prices that they were sold for, which I don't see why that wouldn't be possible. They would still be walking away with a significant amount of money than they did. Let me know. What are your thoughts?